Welcome everybody. Here we are. This is the second, what would you call it? Installment of Dave and Dan Discuss. So we are having fun with this, and tonight's discussion is going to be the Reeseville police contract that was recently entered into at Dodge County. And David here has some interesting numbers he'd like to share with you. I hope you can follow along and see what you think about this. Dave?
Oh, hey Dan. So, back in December, the sheriff got authority to enter into contracts, all right? I was a member of that JPP committee, and I agree with the fact that he should be able to enter into contracts, all right, on behalf of the county. But some of the biggest concerns from everybody on the board floor was that the full cost of providing a service to another municipality is going to be borne by the municipality. We shouldn't be bearing the cost of the county to provide police services for Reeseville.
Yeah, I remember a few months earlier that it was talked about already. It's like, this better not cost Dodge County anything, but we'd love to provide the service.
Yeah, so we're going to talk about that a little bit because I made comments at the December meeting when this contract came up. I opposed the Reeseville contract, but I approved of allowing the sheriff to enter into contracts. So let's start out with the first slide that I put some slides together to help us talk about it. So a patrol officer, which is what Reeseville wants, is a patrol officer down there, gets about 1,900 hours. We had a study done for operational study back in 2019, so I took a lot of the numbers from that matrix study.
So you're talking 1,900 hours a year?
1,940 hours is the number.
Okay.
Typically.
Okay.
Now once we get to a 12-hour shift, that will change. We'll get closer to the 2080 that most people understand as a full-time employee.
Gotcha.
So what I took was 1,940 hours, and we're going to give 500 hours to Reeseville. Okay?
That's what
So
the contract is asking for, or made out for.
That's what we're going to
Okay.
have. Yep, 500 hours. So if you take and look at the first chart here that I put together.
I'm your assistant.
You're my assistant.
Yeah.
This is a representation of that graphically. You know, the blue being the 500 hours and the blue and the red together being the full 1,940 hours. So what you have, of course, is the blue section we're going to give to Reeseville, and this red section over here is the Dodge County portion. So the question I ask is, well, where's the holidays and the vacations and everything else? Of course, we're going to give 500 hours directly to Reeseville, and the balance is all Dodge County responsibility. So it's easy for me to say Dodge County is going to pay for all of his holidays, his vacations, his training, court time. All of that stuff is all absorbed in the Dodge County portion. So this is my objection to providing this level of service.
So he's still getting paid to do all those things or be all those places, but when he's at Reeseville for that 500 hours, that's all he's doing.
That's all he's doing.
Okay.
Yep. But we've committed to giving 500 hours
Right.
of the guy's 1,900 hours to Reeseville. The problem, of course, is, and now if I can have you look at this slide, okay, according to Matrix, in our operational study, an officer, a patrol officer, isn't really available 1,900 hours. We have administrative time, we've got training time, we have his holidays, his sick time, his,
So the benefits that
vacations.
come with the full-time job, or
If you look at that 500 hours, that 500 hours is going to go to Reeseville. Everything else goes to Dodge County.
so it doesn't leave Dodge County, in essence.
Correct.
Okay.
So this chart kind of is a little different. According to Matrix, after you remove those other hours, you only have, on a patrol officer, 1,240 hours available. 1,240 hours. So we don't have 1,900 hours to give. What we only have is 1,240 hours
Okay.
for that patrol officer on the street. So this chart just, blue again. We're going to give 500 straight to Reeseville, and the part that's left over, about 740 hours, is what we're going to get. But of course, we're going to pay for all of the training. We're going to pay for his court time. All of that's going to be borne by Dodge County.
That still stays with us.
Yeah.
Okay.
So this chart here, representation. Yeah. So what I've got here is his, this patrol officer's time. This time up here, the big time, that's how many hours are actually available. These times here, this is, training time. This is court time. These are all from that matrix report. That's where I took all these numbers from. This represents the 1,240 hours that's available for a patrol officer. These things are Dodge County responsibility. So again, we start with 1,900 hours, but Dodge County is going to pay for all of it, right?
Now, Dave, you're referencing the matrix report. What was that exactly?
So
for the people that don't know.
Yeah, back in, probably started in 2018, we had requested an operational study for the sheriff's department. And, the sheriff's budget is very big. There were a number of goals from that. Can we analyze, let's say, overtime? Could we get, what's it really cost to put a person in jail?
Okay.
And of course, we have federal borders. What's the real cost of boarding of federal inmate? So there's a number of different things, but the whole patrol situation was analyzed in there, and that's what we're talking about today. So I thought I would just pull some of that stuff out.
And that's where these numbers came from.
That's where all of these numbers are coming from.
Okay.
And that report's available online. I mean, if you're curious to see what's there, these things are all online. But let's circle back to Reeseville now. Reeseville contract, okay? So we signed a contract with Reeseville in December, and we were, as a JPP committee, we had a meeting, and we were given some costs associated with providing services to Reeseville. So this chart here represents those costs. So a patrol officer on the street, Dodge County, about $103,000, salary and benefits. This is what's been calculated. So 1/4 of his time comes to about $25,000. I have no objection to the fact that Reeseville should pay 1/4 of what it costs to provide a guy on the street. The rest of the stuff, basically, I completely object to. And I'll go to details. We have $951 associated with supervision.
Mm-hmm.
$46 in indirect cost. We'll talk about that. Operational costs, as opposed to indirect costs, $2,200. And the fact that he's got a body camera and a camera in the squad car, $600. Now, mind you, all of these numbers in this chart are all 1/4. 1/4, because we're only providing 1/4 of a guy's time. I'm going to break some of this stuff down here. Let me give you this one here, okay? So let's talk about supervision. So patrol officer, we've got roughly 30 of them. We've got 6 to 7 sergeants, and we've got 3 lieutenants, a captain, chief deputy, and a sheriff.
Sure.
That's the supervision tree above all of these people. Somehow or another, that whole structure there, sergeants, lieutenants, captain, chief deputy, and sheriff,
They're considered supervision.
that's all supervision.
Okay.
That cost, going down to one patrol officer, was about $4,000. I got it right here on the top, $951. And mind you, this is 1/4 of the guy's
Gotcha.
cost, so they think supervision should only cost $951. I completely object to that. I don't know how you can have a sergeant above the guy, two sergeants, and a lieutenant, a captain, a sheriff, and a chief deputy. It's all above there. And I understand the sheriff and the chief deputy have other responsibilities, but from a direct line, from the captain down to the lieutenant, down to the sergeant, that's all direct supervision. And that cost is $951. If we can provide that level, mind you, there's 30 guys.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what I did is I said, okay, let's say, and I don't have the direct cost for sergeants and lieutenants, but if I take that same $103,000 cost that we have to put a patrol officer on the street, and I assign that to the 2 sergeants and the lieutenant that are on the shift, all right, we get a cost of supervision just for that shift for those 3 people of somewhere between $31,000 per man to $44,000 per man. Now again, I take all of these numbers from the Matrix study, because according to Matrix, we have 10 patrol officers on first shift, 9 patrol officers on second, and 7 on third. So basically, I'm taking roughly $300,000, the cost for a lieutenant, 2 sergeants.
Right.
Spread that cost over the 30 people underneath them.
That'd be cost of supervision.
Cost of supervision. Somehow that's only $951. It's a magic number. We don't get there. Okay? So it gets worse, in my opinion.
It's a fair question.
Yeah. So now we get to the other piece that we're going to charge off Reeseville. It's indirect cost. So you say, what's indirect cost? Well, indirect cost is the cost of the county administration, the county business, as it were, that's assigned to the sheriff's office. In 2022, we've allocated to the sheriff's office $3,234,563. The sheriff's office has over $3 million in indirect costs total.
And that's the number he put together, right?
Well, this is right out of our budget.
Yeah.
Yeah. But apparently, you can get by with, 46 times 4, so roughly $180 in indirect cost for one guy. I don't buy it. At the meeting, I said this number is laughable. It is laughable. If you take roughly 160 employees in the sheriff's office and put that into 3.2 million, you got roughly $20,000 per person. But somehow or another, 1/4 of one guy only costs $46. By math, you'd think it'd be at least $5,000.
So according to that math, it's $180. When you divide it out, it's a whole lot more.
I don't know how they get these numbers. I don't know how they put them together. But I just don't believe that we're actually allocating full cost to each of, for this
In this
Reeseville
contract, which
yeah.
was the goal from the get-go. Yeah.
It wasn't just me, it was many
Right,
people that
right.
were on the board floor that said, I'm okay with doing this kind
Yeah.
of thing as long as the full cost.
If it doesn't cost us anything, if we're
Right.
providing a service and getting paid for it, yeah.
Yeah. But, I think we're paying for, the county's paying for his holidays, his vacations, we're paying all of his expenses.
It wasn't prorated correctly, maybe, huh?
Well, if they're paying for 500 and getting 360, that would
That would
be
be
more proper.
fair.
Yep.
Yep.
All right. So my last slide is basically just to kind of give people a reason why I'm concerned. The sheriff's office is not the biggest department in Dodge County, but it's the biggest piece of our levy. The levy for the sheriff is $15,605,000. That's the property tax portion of our budget. It represents 43.6% of all of the levy is going right to the sheriff's office.
So levy is what the county pulls from its citizens as property tax.
Property tax,
Okay.
yeah. And, just to give you a flavor, the total budget for the sheriff in '22 is roughly, it's $22.3 million. So I'm concerned, if we're going to provide contracts to Reeseville or other police departments, let's allocate the full cost. These numbers that we use, these aren't correct. And of course, now I see that we may be trying to provide, let's say, medical examiner services to Green Lake County.
I've heard about that, yeah.
Yeah, same thing. We just want to make sure that we're getting the full costs associated with that.
So how can we make sure we have the right numbers?
I don't know. I thought we would get them from our finance department. That's where these things all came from. We just got to keep questioning it,
Mm-hmm.
and hopefully we get to a point where we get another contract that we can get better numbers.
I believe we are looking out for the citizens of Dodge County, the taxpayers. We don't want them to bear the brunt of something more than they should
Yeah.
in things like this.
Now, Dan, I would say, the sheriff has to provide services to everybody in the county. I get that, and he's mentioned that. Whether you have a local police department or not, the sheriff provides services.
He's there, yeah.
He represents
Mhm.
all
The
the
whole
citizens,
county.
the whole county. And he's brought that up. He says, hey, even if Reeseville they did get rid of their police department, and the county would have to provide services at this point, it's a little extra revenue, I guess, coming in, and that's maybe the way he's looking at it. And he tried to justify it in our meeting and saying, well, we had 600 calls there from Reeseville, and we replied to 600 or 900 calls last year. Well, all I can say is there were 90,000 calls that were in the matrix study. 90,000 calls go into our 911 center
Per year?
per year.
Okay.
So it would make sense that maybe there's 600-700 calls, in a
Mhm.
group of people like Reeseville. But all I want is a fairness to everybody else. We don't need to be providing this service.
Well, it's not just
At a cost
what
of
you
the
want or what I
taxpayers.
want, it's what a lot of the supervisors wanted.
Yeah.
That's what they wanted.
So that was my goal. That's kind of what I had to say about this whole thing. I know the village of Teresa or the town of Teresa, I'm not sure what it is over there, they're looking to provide or get services from the sheriff as well. So,
Yeah, they're batting that ball around right now.
yeah, so hopefully when we get to that point, we can get better numbers and we can put pressure on these contracts so we can better cover our costs.
Well, as is something new, obviously, it's something new, so the more you do something, the better you get at it. It's like, let's keep talking. Let's
Yep.
not just say, this is the way it is, let's keep talking, let's fine tune it, let's make sure that it's gonna be working out the right and fair way.
That's it, Guy.
All right, well, that's a little bit about the Reeseville contract. There will be more coming up too. I've heard rumors that other communities are going on. What?
There's links in the description.
Oh, in the description, we will have links to certain things, even to the JPP meeting where this was discussed. That link will be in there. And yeah, take a look at all this, look at the numbers, and if you're
If you have questions, call.
questions, call. I mean,
Yeah.
we always say we're always available. Thanks for listening to Dave and Dan discuss. Hope it's been informative, and I'm sure we'll see you again.
Have a good one.